It is Wednesday, October 15th, 2025, and today we've got some mid-season awards to hand out. What have I looked at it throughout the course of the season and said, you know what? That's deserving. We got a mid-season Heisman that's also, spoiler alert, going to be a quarterback too award, best quarterback. We got a coach of the year as of this time. Best running back, best wide receiver, best defensive player. I went defensive in general. I would have gone by position group, but I felt like there was a clear-cut answer, defensive player. Most disappointing team and most surprising team. I think we've got a pretty good list here. I think we've got a pretty good group. So we'll have that. We also got Ole Miss and Georgia preview coming up as well. Really excited for that game. I think there's a lot to be determined off of what we're going to see there. So make sure you stick around for this video. Make sure you hang out. Join me as we talk some ball here today on this fine Wednesday. I want to say thank you all for the support recently and continued support as we go forward. Excuse me, I got like hiccups or something. I ask that you subscribe. We're 2 away from 200. Just leave a subscribe down below. It's that red button. It's free, but it's greatly appreciated. It helps us get these videos out further. Helps this channel continue to grow and reach the new heights. No pun intended on other podcast names, but seriously, it helps us continue to grow, reach these next achievements and next goals, and continues to help us build our craft. BJ and I sit here every Saturday and Sunday, most Saturdays and Sundays, and give you a live show, and we're going to continue to do that every single Saturday and Sunday, except for this Saturday. I'm going to have a little bit different. It's going to be a premiered show on Saturday. I'm going to kind of walk through all the games on Saturday. BJ won't be there with me, as I'll be out of town. I'll be on my way, actually, at the time that premieres, I will be on my way down to Columbia, South Carolina for the game. So we got a lot still coming to you this week, and a little bit better preparation in lieu of events going on rather than last week. But we carry forward nonetheless. So thank you all so much. Let's go ahead and get into this episode today. And we're going to go ahead and kick it off with our midseason awards. So I went through this and just kind of did what I would vote for, who I would vote for as the best player in each of these categories going forward. It's not a huge award show. I'm not sitting here and giving out, best freshman, even though I could very well do a best freshman award. But I just wanted to go through here, kind of talk about some guys that I thought have played really well so far to this point, and kind of give guys their props after 6 games for most of these teams. Anyways, let's start with our mid-season Heisman. And that goes to Fernando Mendoza of Indiana. After last week, it sealed the deal for me. I mean, they walked out, they beat Oregon, and we're led a lot by his play, I think. I mean, they've done a really good job. He's done a great job of taking care of the football, becoming a really big staple in this college football season. Indiana's now number 3 in the country, playing their best football, and they're undefeated. Fernando Mendoza, to me, was the obvious Heisman pick at this point in the season. He also goes on my best quarterback list. But my number 2 wouldn't be my number 2 in general. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised to say this, but I think I would go Blake Horvath. We've seen his skill set really shown throughout the course of this season on the ground and through the air. And he's done a great job finding Eli Heidenreich, who's been his favorite target, has set some records of his own throughout the course of this season. This Navy team is definitely dangerous. They have a legit chance, and it's all, mostly because of what Blake Horvath has done offensively. Moving on, we'll stay in the position groups. We'll go best running back. I'm going with Cameron Dickey of Texas Tech. Really love what he's done all year, and the impact he's had on games for this Texas Tech offense. He's really become kind of a favorite of mine at the running back position. There were a couple other guys that came to mind. Really love what Bo Jackson's done for Ohio State in his time playing. He just doesn't have the time on the field that Cameron Dickey has that would really solidify me to put him there. By the end of this season, though, Bo Jackson might just be the best running back in college football. Certainly on that list. Justice Haynes, prior to last week, was in that conversation. Unfortunately, wasn't good enough last week, and obviously didn't play a good portion of the game. Just was not his day, and unfortunately takes him out of that conversation. Ahmad Hardy's been in that conversation for me a good bit. I just need to see a little bit more from Ahmad Hardy. Really like what he's done for Missouri so far this year. He's been a big addition to that offense along with Bo Prabula. There's a few others in that conversation as well, but for right now, those are some of the bigger names that are in there. Best wide receiver. This one really stuck out to me, and when you go and look through the stats and what they've done all year long, and when I look at the stats, I was a bit surprised to see that there was somebody who had that big of an advantage for this team, and that's the biggest reason why Mario Craver is currently my best wide receiver so far this season. He would be my Blitnikoff winner, if you will. He has far and away the best stats on this roster as a wide receiver, with guys like KC Concepcion and others still on this team who are making a lot of plays themselves. Like, this is an offense that you would think, the way they're running the ball, the way they're passing the ball, the way it's moving around, the way KC Concepcion has played, and the way he stepped onto the scene early in the season, you wouldn't expect Mario Craver to have the numbers he has. But instead, again, he's the third leading receiver in the country right now, based on stats. And I'm going to go double check just to be sure. Be sure I didn't just mislead anybody, but I don't believe I have. Going in, taking a look, receiving. Yeah, that is third. 634 yards and 4 touchdowns on the season. Secondly, would have been Mekhi Lemon. He was in that conversation too, but again, for me, we expected Mekhi Lemon to step up, especially in the absence of Zachariah Branch. What we didn't know was that Mario Craver was going to be this good for this team and so far above everybody else. Obviously, your Jeremiah Smiths are up there. Obviously, for me, it's Jeremy Bernard from Alabama who was in the conversation, but I don't think the stats match up quite to where I would like them to be as a Blitnikoff finalist. And then I wanted to give a little bit of love to some G5 guys. Chase Hendricks of Ohio has been fantastic so far this year. One of the best receivers in the group of 5. Love what he's bringing to the table. 585 yards on 37 catches and 4 touchdowns brought to the table for that Bobcats offense. Just another guy that I wanted to give some love to. And then the last couple, Chris Brazell and Elijah Surratt of Indiana. Moving on. Best defensive player. I had a few guys in mind. Of course, Caleb Downs is in my mind probably the best. I think he's going to be the highest drafted defensive player in this upcoming draft. I don't see any reason why not. I think he might be a top 5 pick. However, there's a guy that stood out to me just a little bit more, and that is David Bailey of Texas Tech. I love what he's brought to the table for this defensive line. 8.5 sacks so far in the season through 6 games, so on pace for 17 sacks this season. I just think that what he's brought to the table, what he's done for this team so far on the defensive line, and the absolute havoc that he wreaks for other opponents. Excuse me. I look back to Utah, for example. That game, he had a huge impact on that one. He's been impactful in every game they've played to this point, including that Houston game that was big, Kansas last week. To me, David Bailey has been the best defensive player so far this year, most impactful. Another one that came to mind was Bray Hubbard. I really like what he's done. He's been named as a guy who's kind of rising in draft markets, draft boards, and for rightful reason. He's been making a lot of big plays, and he's had his moments, especially in that Florida State game. Didn't look great, but since then has really picked up his play and matched the level that I think is expected of him in that Alabama defense. Let's go to our Coach of the Year. I'm going to go with Lane Kiffin of Ole Miss. And this could have gone a lot of different directions. I looked at Brent Key. I looked at Tony Elliott of Virginia. I looked at Kurt Cignetti, 6-0. Wins over Oregon on the road. A dominating win over Illinois. I mean, how could you not say Kurt Cignetti a second year in a row, right? What it ultimately came down to, I also thought of Mike Elko, certainly. But what it came down to for me, this Ole Miss team has faced a little bit of adversity early in the year, and it started with the Austin Simmons injury, but not only that, the turnover problems. I mean, this is a team that Austin Simmons had 4 touchdowns and 4 picks in his 2 starts. You look at what Trinidad Chambliss has done so far. They've adjusted the offense to him to fit his skill set, and they've thrived. Truthfully, they've been so much better with Trinidad Chambliss at quarterback. They've matched the adversity. They've risen to it, and they've fought through it, and they're undefeated still. They're 6-0 right now, and they're going on the road to Georgia as touchdown dogs in a game that I don't think they're truly touchdown dogs. I don't buy it. Obviously Georgia's getting some for being at home, getting some points for being at home, but I think Ole Miss could genuinely walk into this game this weekend and come out 7-0. That's a real possibility, even though they beat Georgia last year and they did it handily last year. It's not quite the same team, but they've got a lot of guys who are making a lot of plays. Lane Kiffin's done a great job this year, and right now at 6-0 at this point in the season, I think he's done the best job coaching of anybody in college football. That's why he gets my Coach of the Year vote. Most surprising team, BYU, 6-0 right now, unbeaten, going into the Holy War against Utah this coming weekend. We'll be previewing that game tomorrow, by the way. But going into the Holy War game 6-0 with a freshman quarterback, a true freshman quarterback who wears 47. Sure he wasn't a linebacker? No, Bear Bachmeier has been fantastic. He has turned into really the leader we expected him to be, right? He's a third brother of this family to go Division I and play significant minutes in college football. Hank Bachmeier, of course, the former Boise State, Louisiana Tech, and even Wake Forest quarterback. Being the oldest, you got Tiger Bachmeier, who's a teammate now at BYU, but previously played at Stanford and was a pretty big deal there. And then you got Bear Bachmeier, who has stepped in and just been steady. Hasn't done anything crazy, hasn't done anything insane, but has been a steady playmaker for this offense, has led them at times where they've needed it the most, and been a very calm presence in that locker room and in the huddle. What we've gotten out of this BYU team might be the best coaching job Kalani Sitake's ever done. And if they go on and win this game this weekend and continue to win their football games, which I've doubted all year long, I've doubted it last week when they played Arizona and Tucson, and they almost got beat, but almost doesn't count. They went to overtime in that game and stood strong and won that game. They're going to go into this game against Utah as underdogs, and they're going to maybe come out with another win and be 7-0. An impressive year for the BYU Cougars. And again, Kalani Sitake, another guy who was in my short list of Coach of the Year candidates. Probably my number 2 right now behind Lane Kiffin. I wanted to save that bit for this, but Sitake definitely has done a great job. This team's been fantastic. Probably my most surprising team so far this year. Most disappointing, it came down to a couple of teams. Texas, I think, saves themselves with a win over Oklahoma, becoming 4-2 and not 3-3. So then I had to look elsewhere, and I looked to State College, Pennsylvania, and it's pretty obvious after the events of this week that they would have to be on this list. They're 3-3, losing 3 straight to Oregon, UCLA, and Northwestern, and they haven't looked good doing it. They lose Drew Aller for the rest of the year. That ends his Penn State career. It also ends James Franklin's career at Penn State after 11 and a half years, 11 years and 6 games. And the biggest storyline was their winning ability in big games and top 10 matchups. And it became their winning ability, period. Their ability to win any game. Penn State certainly is disappointed. They followed the blueprint of Michigan. They followed the blueprint of Ohio State the last couple of years. This was a team that was a surefire team, consistent, brought back a lot. The only thing that they were missing was a wide receiver room, and we thought maybe they'd done the job there. Maybe they'd done just enough. They bring in Jim Knowles, pay him the highest salary as defensive coordinator, and then they lose Tony Rojas, and this defense completely falls apart. That's what we've seen out of Penn State over the last couple of weeks, and they continue to drop and fall off as we go throughout the course of this season. They've got 6 games to go, and they've got a few big ones still. They've got Ohio State on the record. They've still got to play a game against Indiana at home. There's going to be a lot of question marks to this team of whether they even make a bowl game going forward with everything going on around them. We'll see where they end up, but Penn State now in the hunt for a new head coach, and 3-3 on the season. They were a surefire most disappointing team in 2025. Let me know what you guys thought. Let me know what you guys think so far this season. Who would you change if you had anybody in this list that you would change or disagree with? Let me know. We're all for the conversation. Of course, we're trying to build a community here. This isn't just me talking to you or at you. This is me talking in conversation that I can't have directly but we can have in the comments down below. I love when we get them. We had some comments last week on the Indiana-Oregon video, and we've had a bunch of comments throughout the course of this season. Love the interaction down below. Please, by all means, drop your comments down there. Let me know what you guys think. But with all that said, let's go ahead and preview this Ole Miss and Georgia game. A game that I'm very excited for. Very excited for. This game's going to be at 3:30 p.m. on ABC. It's going to come right after the South Carolina game. I will have it on, or at least listening to it, on the way home from that game. I'm super excited to see what this one brings to the table. Two teams that average over 30 points a game. Two teams that have not really created a bunch of turnovers defensively, which has been kind of an MO of both of these teams over the last few years, especially more aggressive defensive coordinators that they have. The biggest thing here is both these teams come in as negative turnover differentials, and it's simply because they're not forcing turnovers. They just aren't doing it. The thing that stood out to me the most, though, was what Ole Miss offense has still been able to do, even without Austin Simmons. Over the last 4 games, they have been better than they ever were with Austin Simmons. And it's all thanks to Trinidad Chambliss, who's stepped up and become a really big part of this team. You look at Georgia, and it surprised me when I looked at some of the numbers for this team. Of course, we know they're running the ball well because they've really been pushing that. They've got, I think, four running backs or 3 running backs and their quarterback over 200 yards. Sorry, 2 running backs and Gunnar Stockton over 200 yards. And then Dwight Phillips adds into that list over 100 yards. So they've got 5 players over 100 yards and 4 players over 100 yards rushing. They've only got 3 over 100 yards in receiving. And that's been probably one of the biggest surprises to me so far. It's been Colby Young, Zachariah Branch in that order, and then London Humphreys is a little significantly behind. They don't even have a tight end over 100 yards yet. Oscar Delp is the closest at 96 yards, but he's only got 6 catches. Has not been utilized in this offense the way I expected to see Oscar Delp utilized, given what we've seen from recent tight ends in this offense. I'm just very, very baffled, a little bit more, again, surprised at the lack of usage. But it is what it is. Maybe this is the way they want to go. What also has surprised me is, again, that Gunnar Stockton has over 200 rushing yards this season. This is the most they've really ran a quarterback. I mean, Stetson Bennett was good, and they like to run him a little bit, but it wasn't designed runs quite the way it is here, and it wasn't as often as I've seen it here. It's an interesting dynamic in this offense. It looks a lot different. But things stay relatively the same. I mean, Georgia's been good. Their defense has been smothering. They are allowing only 2.9 yards per carry on the season. I talked about here only 3 wide receivers over 100 yards. Hopefully Oscar Delp gets involved this weekend. I think he's going to need to for this team to really be able to take control and win this game. And then the other thing for me was contain Trinidad Chambliss. You're going to have to. If he's able to get running, if he's able to get loose and create a lot of big plays, I think Georgia's going to be in trouble. It's a very similar story to what we saw with the Tennessee game, except the difference being that this Ole Miss defense has stepped up and played well and even better than they did last year. Surprising, given the talent that was on this team last year, but they have played better this year than they did last year. It's a bit of a surprise. They were talking about Ole Miss maybe as the better team defensively in this game. Even though we see what we see here. We see the numbers. The one thing Ole Miss is going to have to do is slow down the run game. We see them 157 yards per game allowed. They've certainly had their moments in the run defense. They played great in pass coverage, which is why I think they need to spread the ball around. Why I think Georgia needs to spread the ball around. You look at this Ole Miss team, 4 turnovers forced. You have to force turnovers in this game. If you don't win the turnover battle in this game, you don't win the game. Plain and simple. You won't beat Georgia if you can't create mistakes. That's the biggest story here. The other thing I think is they got to create pressure. They've not created a bunch. I think they only have 8 sacks on the season so far. That's just over 1 per game. It's not quite good enough. They need to do a little bit more in the backfield throughout the course of this game specifically. One thing they're doing great, though, is they got 5 wide receivers averaging 30-plus yards per game. They're great numbers. They're doing a lot of good things. When I compare that to Georgia's wide receivers, they have 2 averaging over 30 per game. And I'm not talking like right at 30. The lowest wide receiver in that 5 is 34.8 points per game, I believe. Ole Miss has really done a great job of getting the ball to different guys and letting them do different things. But it's also been thanks to Kewan Lacey, who's been a huge surprise and a huge step forward in this running game and really taking control of that position. We'll see what they're able to do. This is a fun game. This is a fun matchup to watch. I'm excited for this one. I mean, genuinely, Ole Miss won this game 28-10 last year in Oxford. They're going to want to come to Athens and say, you know what, we can do it again. And I think they're going to prove that they can do it again. However, I don't think they're going to win. We look at the lines. It's Georgia minus 7.5. I think they're getting quite a few. There's probably less than 5. If we're talking this game on a neutral field and Oxford, I think this might be a Georgia -1 kind of game. The over-under sits at 54.5, and I buy 54.5 for sure. I buy the under on that based on what I'm predicting anyways. But it's close. I'm predicting. I started at 28-27, and I was like, it might be too much. 28-25, Georgia in this game. I think Georgia will get the win. I think their home field advantage will be a big deal, but Ole Miss is going to hang around, and I think it's going to become a very close football game. And I'm excited to see how this thing runs. Ole Miss plus 7.5. The under 54.5 is what I'm taking here. Not betting it this week, but I certainly would be looking at those numbers. I might even get a little bit of action on that Ole Miss plus 7.5 as it's grown over a touchdown, because I don't think we sit below that. But we'll see. We'll see. Let me know what you're picking here in this game. Again, Ole Miss at Georgia, Saturday, 3:30 p.m. on ABC. Make sure you all tune into that one. That's a huge game. That's a big deal in the SEC championship race. That's a big deal in college football playoff race as we sit here getting closer and closer. We're only a couple of weeks away from college football playoff rankings. So a lot of things yet to be done here in this college football season, as we are just now past the halfway portion of the year. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. Hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Hope you're having a great week so far. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We got a double preview tomorrow. We got BYU, Utah, and then we got third Saturday in October, Tennessee and Alabama. We'll be talking both those games again tomorrow, whenever that video gets up. Friday, we'll have some games to preview as well. We got one game. We're going to preview Notre Dame and USC. Very excited for that game in South Bend this Saturday. Two teams that have some playoff aspirations, and Notre Dame with a must-win scenario basically the rest of the way out. And USC looks really good. So we'll see what happens. One last little note I want to go through here for you guys today. We had some games last night. Conference USA action, as a matter of fact. Liberty with a 30-27 victory over New Mexico State. They are now 3-4, 2-1 on the conference on the season. Arkansas State beat South Alabama 15-14 with a 12-point fourth quarter to go on and win that thing. You got Florida International with a 25-6 win over at Western Kentucky. A bit of a surprise, but as I said, FIU is a surprising team in this conference. They're going to be really good. And Keyshawn Owens with 22 carries, 195 yards, and a touchdown in that one. A big deal for FIU to get that win. Looking at today's games, Delaware and Jacksonville State will play later this evening. Jacksonville State looking to remain unbeaten in conference play. They'll be 3-0 with a win. Delaware, though, not a sleeper team. They're 3-2, 1-1 in conference. Later this evening, same time actually on CBS Sports Network, you'll see UTEP and Sam Houston. Sam Houston still winless. UTEP winless in conference play, 1-5 on the year. Looking to get the job done. UTEP goes in as 2.5-point favorites. So make sure you tune into that one as well. We'll be sitting around checking those out, and we'll talk more about those tomorrow after they are over with. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Hope you'll have a great rest of your day. We will again be here again tomorrow with double preview. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new. Help us get to that 200 mark. We're just 2 away. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow with another episode of Armchair Analysis.